What is going on? We are back in Black in the building. Shout out to everybody out there at the corporate if you are there. Shout out to everybody out there, Shawnee, Erica, Florida and Philly in the building. David No Compromise, James Youngblood, Dasha Mirage, Time, everybody out there, man, that I fuck with. Shout out to everybody. I hope you're doing what you need to do to survive and handle business. Man, you already know. Did Jesus come back? Oh, god damn. All right, well, that's okay. Maybe if you sing enough in the choir, do what the fuck you need to do, maybe he will come back when it's time to return, or whatever that is. But till then, man, we going to handle business. Stop letting the white supremacists go oops upside our motherfucking heads on some bullshit. Gotta be smarter. But anyway, man, we got a very interesting topic today. I'm gonna play some audio about it, about the Tulsa, Oklahoma survivors of that massacre. FBA brothers and sisters, the last soul living survivors who survived, and they're trying to sue for reparations for what was done to them and what has been done to them in the United States of America Incorporated. And that judge dismissed it, of course, a dominant society person. That's what I'm saying. They're gonna keep moving the goalposts and do whatever the fuck they want to do. So let's get into it right now. We're gonna play some audio and let's see what they talking about. Let's see what CNN is talking about, because a lot of times CNN don't like to talk about our struggle, and if they do, it's always on some bullshit. Let's see what they talk about. Let's see if it plays.
Survivors of the Tulsa Massacre of 1921, which happened 100 years ago this month, testifying before Congress today, calling on the U.S. government to officially acknowledge one of the worst mass killings in American history, which likely left hundreds dead and destroyed an economically vibrant black community known as Black Wall Street. On Memorial Weekend in 1921, a young black man was accused of attacking a young white woman, setting off a violent rampage by a white mob through the city's Black Greenwood district. Over the course of 18 hours, the neighborhood was decimated. More than 1,000 homes and businesses destroyed. Reports at the same time said at least 36 were killed, but historians believe as many as 300 people died. 107-year-old Viola Fletcher telling members of Congress that she will never forget the violence of the mob as she escaped her home with her family.
I still see black men being shot, black bodies lying in the street.
107
I
years
still
old.
smell smoke and see fire. I still see black businesses being burned. I still hear airplanes flying overhead. I hear the screams. I have lived through the massacre every day. Our country may forget this history, but I cannot.
Thank you.
Viola Fletcher, one of 3 survivors to testify, also telling Congress that terror is inflicted on black Americans every day.
Facts. Now, I wanted to play that just to give y'all a little bit of background so we don't have to go through all this and talk about all this. So let's read what's going on. An Oklahoma judge dismissed the reparations lawsuit filed by the last 3 known survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre on Friday. Court records show the 3 had been locked in a years-long court battle against the city of Tulsa and others and other groups and officials over the opportunities taken from them when the city's Greenwood neighborhood was burned to the ground in 1921. Contemporary reports of deaths begin at 36, but historians now believe as many as 300 people have died. According to the Tulsa Historical Society and Museum, thousands were left homeless. Leslie Benningfield Randall, 108, Viola Fletcher, 109 now, and her brother Hughes Van Ellis, 102, were among the plaintiffs. CNN previously reported the plaintiffs had argued that the damage inflicted during the massacre was a public nuisance from the start. Public nuisance from the start, and were seeking relief from the nuisance as well as to recover for unjust enrichment others have gained from the exploitation of the massacre. Cornell's Legal Information Institute defines a public nuisance as when a person or an entity unreasonably interferes with a right that the general public shares in common, like a noise ordinance or some shit like that, probably. However, the city of Tulsa requested the lawsuit be dismissed with prejudice against refiling, arguing in part that simply being connected to a historical event does not provide a person with unlimited rights to seek compensation from any project in any way related to that historical event. All right, I'm going to keep reading, then I'm going to give you my take. If that were the case, every person connected to any historical event could make similar unjust enrichment claims against every museum or point of remembrance the city claimed. Judge Caroline Wall, Dominant Society, on Friday found that upon hearing the arguments of counsel and considering the briefs filed by counsel for plaintiffs and counsel for defendants, the plaintiff's Second Amendment petition should and shall be dismissed with prejudice, court's records show, which means they can't resue. They can't refile nothing that. Can't, you know, Ike Howard, grandson of Viola Fletcher, said he was angry about the ruling. They were belighted and once again not made whole. Howard said, we still remain blighted. My bad, I said belighted. Blighted. We wish the DOJ would reinvestigate. How can we get justice in the city that created the nuisance? Is justice only for the rich? Family attorneys are expected to address the possibility of an appeal. Family members of Randall could not immediately be contacted. Ed Mitson, who made a private $1 million donation to the three survivors, told CNN on Saturday the Oklahoma state government should be ashamed of itself for not doing right by these three wonderful people, one of whom fought for this country in World War II. Thank you. I was just about to say that. Fletcher was 7 years old when a violent white mob targeted black residents and destroyed her community's thriving black economic hub. My life was taken from me, Van Ellis previously said as he reflected on his family fleeing Greenwood when he was only a few months old. He previously told CNN his family and other survivors left their homes and opportunities behind. I lost 102 years. I don't want nobody else to lose that, Van Ellis said. All right, now I'm going to give you my partake on it, and this isn't going to take long. First of all, if that was the white dominant society Jewish community, they would have got reparations. It would have been no time. First of all, they're getting reparations paid from the United States of America to them for some shit that happened in Europe. That didn't even happen over here. Nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody brings that up and says, hey, I think that's a little unfair that we paying all these reparations to the white Jewish community. That didn't even happen on this soil. But slavery happened here, and everybody's playing the benign neglect policy and acting like they don't know what's going on. Here's what I suggest that we start doing. Let's study, let's read, let's not have the four-wall effect, and let's not get into tether back and forth. Let these people claim Jamaican, all that. Let them have all that. But let's check them at every sense of the word when they're trying to take on, they created hip hop, or they did this, or they did that. That's when we need to start checking what's going on. I think that it's really imperative that we have to start understanding our history and knowing what's going on. They took them lives away from these survivors. Just like, look, let me tell you something. When I went to Citrus Community College, man, one of the professors took us to the Museum of Tolerance, and it was about the Holocaust. So we had to hear this dominant society, white Jewish lady, tell us about the Holocaust and tell us about the Holocaust. And I remember it was me and another sister in that class, and it was a brother that was on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He was a little dude that was dating Tatiana Ali when they had that scene. Can I blow in your ear? He went to my school too. And we were all talking, and I was like, but what does this have to do with the United States of America? Because didn't this happen in Europe? And all the white people got mad at me. And I was like, I'm just saying, like, slavery happened here. And why are you not taking us to no museum about slavery? Why are you taking us? Like, I was not feeling that shit then. And I hadn't read not then. Like, I just, like, my instincts was like, you know, because I started asking questions like, oh, so this happened in Europe? And they was like, yeah, this happened in Europe. Over 5 million Jewish people died. I'm like, okay. And they were like, yeah, you know, we have to have compassion. I was like, yeah, I do have compassion, but that happened there. What about the compassion for slavery that happened here? And nobody had anything to fucking say. And that's the problem. And the dominant society, they fucking know that shit too. That's why they dismissed with prejudice, meaning you can't even refile, you can't do none of that shit no more. Man, where the fuck is Johnny Cochran when you need him? That's what we need. We need fuck civil rights attorneys that want to settle all the goddamn time. We need motherfucking Johnny Cochran. That's gonna be like, nah, we not playing that shit. Because this is bullshit. Them people deserve money for that. And white people know that, and that's why I keep trying to tell people, don't get into that back and forth, trying to educate people about slavery and educate. They know what the fuck that is. It's 2023, motherfuckers know. I told y'all when I was at the 24-hour gym, and one of the dudes that work out there, he's a trucker, real cool brother, very knowledgeable. This brother's very knowledgeable, and he was going back and forth with this white lady. And then they kind of brought me in the conversation. And I was just kind of like trying to get, you know, a grasp on, okay, what's going on, what's happening, or whatever, right? So then when I started to get the gist of what was going on, and she just was like, I forgot what they were talking about. Oh, they were talking about the trans community and all that. And she was like, I just think, you know, people need to accept them and stuff like that. And you know, I'm sitting there, she was like, don't you agree? And I said, yeah, in terms of letting people live their lives and live in their truth, yeah. But this is one thing that I might add. And the trucker was like, oh shit, here we go. I said, then I'm gonna ask the dominant society to accept slavery and accept racism, white supremacy, and establish a system of justice. Man, that room got so quiet because we was outside. We was by the pool area. You know, you got the jacuzzi, the pool area, the steam room, the sauna. So it's like 4 black dudes, 2 white dudes, and a white lady. And I remember one of the white dudes was like, what does that mean? What you mean? He was like, I know about slavery, but what you mean like racism, white supremacy? And then I told him, I just said, well, racism, white supremacy is everywhere. You know, the dominant society dominates 9 areas of people activity. And I said, here, man, you have to read the ISIS papers by Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. I'll go read the Compensatory Counter-Racist Code of Ethics. He wrote the books down. He was like, damn, I ain't never really heard nobody say that. I said, most of the time, you're going to just hear banter back and forth of arguing or, you know, pulling up Google facts or, you know, I'm not into all that. I'm into, okay, because my brother's point was this. This was my brother's point at the gym. That's the trucker. His point was they're force feeding the LGBTQ culture down black people's throats. He said, and not just black people's throats, he was like, around all racial groups' throats. They're just shoving it down our throats. The white lady's defense was, well, we should just be more accepting. And I said, in terms of what? In terms of accepting that people can live their truth? She was like, yeah. I said, I agree. I said, but I'm going to ask something of you. The dominant society should be accepting of slavery and what it has done to black people. And they should be accepting of knowing that racism, white supremacy exists, and that they should be establishing a system of justice. Meaning, the racial group that needs the most constructive help gets the most constructive help. And she was like, well, what do you mean? I said, in terms of this. When you could look at and consider what black folk, native blacks, or foundational black Americans, or black folk that you could trace their lineage back to the 1866 census. Look at what they have been through. I said, I'm going to talk as a third party. I'm not even going to talk as a black person. I said, look at what they have been through. Redlining, gentrifying, lynching. You know, just those three things that encompasses slavery. You know, and slavery is a byproduct of racism, white supremacy. I say you have to understand that people that wrote the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, all those things, those were white supremacists. The person who wrote the Star Spangled Banner was a lawyer. He was a white supremacist. He believed that black folk were put on this earth to be slaves, and he owned 300 of them. I was like, so you have to understand the people that were placed in charge of this country back then, they didn't even view us as equal. So with that being said, we need the most constructive help. Meaning, why is it when it comes to an LGBTQ, LMNOP, XYZ movement, it gets funded and it gets laws passed right away, but when black folks start talking about laws and things that need to get passed for us, it's the benign neglect policy. And she was like, nah, you have a point. You have a point. I said, and I'm not trying to make this point to be proven right. I just want you to understand we need the dominant society to accept racism, white supremacy, and establish a system of justice. And she was like, well, what do you mean by that? They had to accept that racism, white supremacy is at the forefront of everything else that goes on in the United States of America Incorporated, even in the world, but let's just use the United States of America Incorporated. And she was like, well, how so? I said, because the people who wrote the laws and policies were racist white supremacists. That's what I mean. We were made to breed like cattle. We were the first livestock in bonds. I said, the dominant society, if we remove each other, I said, let's remove me, let's remove you as a white person. The dominant society, they got a 500-year head start. And they act like slavery was 8,000 years ago. She was like, well, yeah, it was, it was fairly a long time ago. I said, and so was the Holocaust, but we never forget that. And she said, you got a great point. And I said, hey, this is no disrespect to our white dominant society, Jewish community. I respect them as well. But if you're going to do for one, you do for all. And if this country was built off the back of black labor, because when you read these books, this is everything that we talked about. I said, when you read books by any kind of scholars, when you talk about slavery, I said, let's just take Christopher Columbus and what he saw, and then take all the other dominant society people after him of what they witnessed and what was done to black people and what others witnessed. How could you ignore that? And it's almost to the point that it gets so overwhelmingly ignored. That's why black folk get so frustrated with any other agenda that's pushed down our throats. That's why you see so much confusion. I said, because the dominant society is the masters of confusion. She was like, how so? I said, because they're the ones that are in charge. And she was like, you keep saying that they dominate. I said, well, according to Dr. Francis Cress Welsing and Neely Fuller Jr., they dominate 9 areas of people activity. I said, I can't remember all of them, but I can remember the majority of them. And she was like, well, what do you mean? Just explain it to me. She was like, educate me, because I've never heard of this. I said, they dominate 9 areas of people activity: labor, law, education, entertainment, economics, sex, religion, war. And she was just like, I never even I said, it's easy for the dominant society to never even consider that. I said, because it doesn't affect them. It only affects one racial group. That's why other racial groups come here and they have no problem joining in on the banter and the joking and the benign neglect on black folk, as long as they get whatever they can get from the dominant society. I said, I see it on jobs all the time. I see it everywhere. So if you're asking us, back to my original point, I told her, if you're asking us to be accepting of the LGBTQ community and all this other stuff, I said, I am going to say this. The black community is the most accepting out of every other racial group. Even when we don't like other racial groups and what they do, we will still accept them. It's other racial groups that are not accepting of us and the work that we've put in. I said, I grew up in a neighborhood where a Latino woman could straight tell me, oh, my dad doesn't want me dating black people, and I'm like, wow, that's funny. We built the country, and y'all just got here, but you want to go with what? I said, as if they come from a higher standard than black folk. But that's how people are being taught, because everybody follows the design and the hierarchy need of the dominant society. That's why the survivors, the FBA survivors of Tulsa, that's why they got denied. Because they're going to keep their foot on our neck. And we have to understand that. That's why, as Dr. Claude Edison expresses, we are a special people. We're a peculiar people. We're special. All the things that we've been through, we are the most hated but emulated out of everyone. I was listening to Genuine on Drink Champs, and I have been saying this shit for years. David Banner has been saying this shit for years. I like when Genuine was like, yeah, I was a little upset that Timbaland was making all this classical music, not classic, but classic music with Justin Timberlake. It's like, damn. It's like, fuck me. Was you gonna do it with him? And I've been saying that shit for years. Now, the music and beats that Timbaland did for Justin Timberlake, hey, they jamming, as David Banner say, but you are not fucking with The Bachelor or 100% Genuine. Those two albums are classics, and they are running rings around any bullshit that Justin Timberlake do. Period. And what I love about Genuine, he was able to survive without Timbaland. That's the dope part. Timbaland didn't do In Them Jeans. And that's a hit to this day. So it's like, we just got to know how to explain things. And the other white dude came up to me. He was like, hey, what's the name of those books again? He's like, I'm going to check those shits out, man. Because I hear a lot of talk about that type of stuff, but I don't know. And I want to learn about it. And I told that lady too, I said, you know what I would like you to do if you ever get a chance? Go read this book called White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. She breaks it all down. She breaks it all down. I said, because we'll be here for hours talking about racism and white supremacy. We just need to establish a system of justice. Meaning the group that needs the most constructive help gets the most constructive help. Bank loans, houses. Why is it 62% of dominant society own houses in California, 90% of black folk own it? And black folk, we gotta do a better job and start giving up the information. You can't have kids living with you and you moving and shaking and doing all this shit, and then when they get older, you looking like, well, why is everybody asking me for money? Well, nigga, you didn't teach what you're supposed to teach. That's all. It's not a big deal. It's just we have to do a better job of passing on the information. If I'm an architect or if I'm an engineer and I know about engineering and I got people up under me and then they get grown and I'm making all this money and they can't survive on their own, and I can't go around talking about, well, damn, why are these niggas begging me for money? Well, I didn't teach them and pass on the information. That's another problem to me. I feel like black folk, we got to stop being so esoteric with the knowledge and keeping the knowledge hidden, because it's not doing black folk any good. And we got to learn how to stay in our lanes and learn what we need to learn and keep it moving and not be in competition with each other. We're on the same fucking team. You know, when I go to the gym, it's one gym I go to. The majority of the people that's there are Latinos, and they talk, they laugh, they joke, they speak in their language, whatever. Black folks see each other, they don't even want to speak. I go out of my way. Hey, what's going on, brother? You know, now the old school brothers, I would say that's 50 and up, you can tell they raised different. They look you in the eye. Hey, what's going on, young brother? Hey, what's going on, OG? Shit, you catch the woo-woo-woo game? Nah, OG, I'm gonna go check it out. They always have a conversation, but man, these young millennials, they just want to have their earphones on. They act like you don't exist. And it's like, nigga, do you see all these Latinos around here? You ain't got a pot to piss in. And motherfuckers is wondering why they can't get jobs, because you're competing with every other racial group. And the largest racial group you're competing with is the Latino community. And if you live in Las Vegas, Nevada, they damn near done took Vegas over. I remember when Vegas used to be whites and blacks. Now it is whites, majority is Latino, and then a sprinkle black folk. And the black folk that are around look at each other upside each other, say they want to shoot and cause all types of mischief. I'd be like, God damn. These are just things we got to understand, we got to know, because it's very disheartening when I see it. But hey, man, go check that out. Shout out to those survivors, man. I would love to do alive with David and James Youngblood on this, man, because straight up, I knew that judge was going to dismiss it. We needed Johnny Cochran, and two, we have to learn how to start sticking together. Hey, but that's my time, man. I went over by 5 minutes, man. So that's my time. No, I went over by damn near 10 minutes. That's my time. Hey, I got nothing but love for y'all. Guilty, nigga. I'm out. Peace.